Okay, so I'm back this time with Noah Beygelman, again with his top 8 deck from the World Championships, and this time we're joined with Yuanji Lee. Say hi, Yuanji.
Hi, Yuanji.
Oh, wonderful. This time we're going to be doing a bit more of like a deep dive on the deck and explaining like a lot of their card choices. And honestly, I'm just going to kind of walk away and let them yap. I might interject every now and then, but I know they got some thoughts, and we might have some clashing between them. We had to stop talking and be like, hold on, we should just be recording this a minute ago. So why don't you guys jump into it? And also, if you didn't see the deck list already, check out the link. It's going to be like somewhere up here, and there'll be a link in the description somewhere for you to go watch the like kind of shorthand deck tech that was like the old tournament center deck profiles. Jump into it, boys. Talk about some of your deck building choices.
Yeah. So first I wanted to talk about the face. So I think this is like basically the reason to play Viserai is like he leverages Face Purgatory much better than the other Rune Blades. And I think
it's like maybe Florian, but Florian's kind of a meme. It's just like the way that like if you think about how the Rune Blade deck is constructed, I don't know, like basically all of them except for Aurora are going to be playing mostly like attack actions, on-attack actions, or has to play instants. So I think Face Purg is like okay in all of them, but Viserai is probably like the only Rune Blade other than Florian who really wants to be blocking or has a like the card pool to support a plan that involves blocking. If you're blocking too many cards with Vincent, they can get real awkward real fast. Like
your hand size can scale up and down nicely, where it's like if the math is better blocking, you should just block.
Yeah, and I think another thing too that's pretty important is since this Viserai deck plays a bit more non-attacks than like the usual one does, it's okay if you only have one attack and you block and you draw into a non-attack. You can just play your hand of non-attacks, set up a bunch of rune chants, and like still be chilling. Whereas in another deck, if your non-attacks are cards that buff your next attack, and you block with your only attack, you kind of like screw yourself. So I think that's another reason why I think our build optimized for Face Purgatory.
Yeah.
Another thing our build optimized for was just playing the Grasp. So since we never want to be pitching cards to do our normal plays, having Grasp as the outlet, you still want to play blues, for example, to AB in the Runeblade Mirror, or if your hand is just cloggy, there's not enough good reds that have been printed in the game to just play all reds.
Yeah.
The Grasp just giving you an outlet of either dealing 4 damage or getting that extra rune chant to make your Runic Reckoning free, or set up for future Dirge plays to be able to make rune chants and have Dirge be a starter. Just having the consistency of Grasp in every matchup was like super key. I think, I definitely would not play Vexing Quillhander or like any other gloves. I think people who do that don't really understand the deck, but it's okay. Everyone has to start somewhere.
Do you want to actually go into that a bit too, of the like whole AB slot choice versus the Runeblade mirrors?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people don't really want to play AB into Rune Blades, and you're just trying to like Wild West, pull your guns out, start shooting at each other, and then see who comes out on top. The biggest problem is that I think if you don't play AB, especially with Aurora, you're kind of like playing into her most powerful thing that she can do, which is like have a Channel Lightning Valley on the field, and then she blocks with a Sigil of Suffering. So you're basically just like giving her a way to like one card like 7 or 8 with the Sigil of Suffering, which I think is the main power play. So like for Aurora, so I think a lot of the time when you're deciding like how you choose your equipment or like how you choose your strategy in general, you kind of want to be like minimizing the best plays that your opponent can do while also maximizing the best plays that you're doing yourself. So like if you're only optimizing for like your half of the match, then you're just basically just like still flipping coins. It's just like whether your half is better than their half.
Yeah. I also found that in the Viserai mirror too, if the opponent's not on AB, you can kind of just like cheat the end game with the opponent dying even though they have cards or even though they have armor.
Like secretly they're playing a 35 life game and they didn't realize it. Like once they hit that threshold, the game just ends.
Yeah, like for example, like a big part of the end game involves, let's say you're at once you hit the life threshold where you could realistically die to like a read the runes worth of rune chants or like a revel, like 5 or less. It doesn't matter how many cards you have in your hand that can block. You kind of just you're just gonna die. So it's like, sure, you push me to like 1 or 2. If I can keep like 3 cards and then deal 5 arcane, it doesn't matter that you're like up on me in the exchange, like you're 4 life higher than me and you have like a full grip and I'm only like sending 3 cards back at you, you have armor up, like like none of that matters.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing too is that if you do end up bricking on a hand that's all reds and you had no rune chance, you kind of have to block, whereas here you can like really punish the opponent, at least with the way we've designed the deck. You can just stack up like infinite rune chance and come in with an attack for like 3 physical and like 10 arcane. So it's like you really punish the Aurora for not having AB. So this is kind of like tangentially related, is like a lot of decks are packing a lot of reds, like people aren't playing blues, so maybe this is why they feel they can like skimp on the null rune. But I think the combination of us playing a sufficient number of blues to actually AB along with playing the AB one was like, yeah, pretty nice.
And if you're doing like the quill hand,
yeah,
you can't like actually crack it.
Yeah, I think most people who play quill hand, they're trying to quill hand to either play like an amp or like to play like a ninth blade, and they're hoping like that's like good enough for like the 1 turn. The main problem when you're playing quill hand though is that you get to turn on like a lot of other cards that for your opponent to be good. So like if they're playing Snuff Out or if they're playing like Succumb, you just have like a lot less counterplay to those kinds of cards because you have so much less armor available to you. And whereas we're giving up like 1 point of armor with the Spellbound Creepers, that you oftentimes it's hard to find a good opportunity to use that anyways.
But then you're still gaining the glove armor.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So like instead of giving up the glove armor, we're only giving up 1 point on the Spellbound Creeper block.
Yep.
Any other armor interesting choices?
Yeah. So Yuanji is much more of a fan of the Carapace than I am.
Yeah, I like playing Carapace into most like Viserai builds because I think most Viserais are leaning pretty heavy on like Snuff Out. We actually had like a big discussion about like whether or not Snuff Out was like even worth playing in general.
A big discussion is like 20 hours for reference.
But I mean, there are some merits, but if the other person is really prepared to block with armor, the kind of the downside of most of the newer Viserai builds is that you're not really packing a lot of on hits. Like a lot of the older Viserai builds, you're just like playing Marvin Skies with a bunch of like big power attacks. So even though like back when that was true, like you didn't even really want to play any Arcane Barrier into like Viserai mirrors, and maybe that was kind of the old it's some of like the old heuristics carrying over where they don't necessarily carry over anymore, because back then armor was more important than Arcane Barrier because it was more important to kind of like stuff the Marvin Skies triggers.
Yeah. I think one other thing that's pretty important too is I actually find sending big attacks like Snuff Out buffed with Reckoning, for example, can play into Face Purgatory as well. I really only want to be sending my big attack as like a ninth blade where I'm guaranteed having no cards in hand, like I'm spending my whole hand, I'm sending the ninth blade, they're never going to make me discard. Whereas with like a Snuff Out line of play, I'm usually having to pitch a card because it costs money, and it's playing into the Face Purgatory. So just like in general, that's not a card I was subbing in the mirror match specifically.
Yeah.
So, although funny story, I did play against Majin in round 2, and he sent a Snuff Out for 11 because he had double Reckoning.
Yeah.
That was pretty effective, but I don't know how often you're going to be able to draw double Reckoning on a Snuff Out.
Yeah, I mean, at that point you just like block your hand.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Even
like,
then, the Snuff Out did not actually have text. So
yeah, I mean, like, it's.
He has tempo now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has claimed the high ground.
Mm-hmm. What happened in the real game, I just like said, whatever, I'll discard a card and then set ninth blade. Yeah. But in theory, I could have just blocked it out. It was just, I wanted to win the game faster.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's good about equipment.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. I didn't see a need to run like the any other pieces. Yeah, didn't miss anything. My Carapace collected dust. I played it in like 3 rounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can go into like some of the main deck stuff. I think the first card is Poison the Well. We kind of just submitted this without really testing it. We played 2. For some reason, the community just agreed that like 2 is the number that you play.
Yeah.
So like whatever, just trust. You play 2. You want the first one for like early game, and then the second one is just like to put the fear of God in them that like, oh no, they go down to like 8 or 9 and they could just like randomly die. And the theory is it's just a blue and you're playing a super long game, so you're going to pitch it. If you see it early, it's like fine, but I don't like the card. I think it's not a play pattern that's like repeatable. Like I don't think you can consistently actually win with poison.
Yeah, it's not. I think in actuality, it's not super effective. It's pretty bad. I think into CYB Enigma actually, because Enigma gets to kind of gain life. So normally, when you're playing Viserai into other CYB decks, like I played into a CYB-IE, and also like in testing, I played into CYB Bravos before. Like Hamilton's playing CYB New. When you're playing into CYB decks that don't have the ability to gain pseudo life with ward, even though the ward is just gonna take a rune chant. Like I played against Matt Rogers on feature, but it wasn't put in the stream because the game was pretty bad. You
want to tell that story?
He basically, I mean, there's not a lot of story, but he assembled like 12 ward. On the field, and then I kind of misplayed
12 ward in a sense of like 12 individual points of one ward.
12 like pieces of ward. I think it was like he had like a Restless Coalescence that he put counters on that were making spectral shields, and then he had like Essence of Ancestry Bodies that he would just like play, and then he had like a Rage Spectre just like sitting there and not attacking.
Got a fortress.
Yeah.
You cannot come in.
Yeah, because like the way that they're playing is they're just like assembling like life because you're trying to like rune chant stack, and I don't want to like get too into like my rant about like why CYB is kind of annoying.
If you want it, you can. I don't care.
I'll make another video about that, but basically I think like the way that you have to play, I think you have to try to like fatigue somebody who does that. And then so you have to like use your rune chants to just like clear their wards.
Because then your rune chants are like taking cards out of their deck, right? Because like you're killing real cards.
Yeah, so then like you're not trying to build like 30-something, 40 rune chants for the kill. You're just like building rune chants enough to like when they like play their Mirror Guy or their Rage Spectre that you can like clear the board so they can't like kill you. And then you have to try to like fatigue them like out of all their blocking cards by just like activating Grasp and Swing Weapon. It's like a super degenerate play style, I think, that we have to kind of look into. And so Poison doesn't really work for that. But it did come up. There's a play that I could have made where, so like the way the Reaping Blade works is that you can gain life when both players have the same life. So the CYB player can always gain some amount of life at the beginning when both players are 40. Matt gained himself up to 42, and then he played a truce. And he was going to take my life up to 43 so he could start gaining life again. And I think I actually had a Poison the Well in my hand at the time, so like a play that you can make is you can poison yourself. And then, so the truce, instead of healing you by 3 to put you up to 43, it puts you down to 37, and then it's like really
your
hard.
Reaping Blade is online and you kind of...
Yeah, it's really hard for them to gain life. But I still don't think that's necessarily like a winning strategy into Enigma. I think like the threshold for like how many rune chants you have to build is like just way too high. I think you have to build like around like 45 to 50.
Wasn't it also like your hand was locked or something? So like that.
Yeah. Like my hand was locked because I had like 2.
Because you were like mid stacking chants.
Yeah,
right?
I had 34. That's just not enough.
Just casual, you know.
Yeah. So I had like 2 go again attacks, 2 poisons, and a go again attack set. I think like maybe if I was gonna redo it, I would just like change maybe how the deck composition is a little bit, or I would just like change my overall strategy. But it's just like something that the Poison Well doesn't really address. So I think we maybe have to go back to the drawing board. Maybe the card that you actually want to play is a card like Sonata Phantasmia to just let you like dump your hand.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's like.
That does create a lot of total extra deck damage.
Yeah, but
exactly.
It's just like, but it's like
you're not playing it for the like discard their hand nonsense. It's just like a way of letting you use your hand to convert to rune chants.
Yeah, but it's not really the type of game that I really want to be trying to play.
So ideally, all this conversation is irrelevant because they just like address CYB on the spam list. Who knows?
Yeah,
for the next week, it'll be relevant.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, you don't need to play this card. It's just the 71st and 72nd, or 72nd, 73rd, whatever cards in the deck. But one card that I do think is like pretty important as like another like flex blue kind of card where the text box doesn't always matter, but when this text box does matter, it's like insane.
For people that are only audio right now, we're talking about Warmongers.
Yes.
Warmongers diplomacy. It's funny, like when we first started working on the deck, we always found like at least like one blue slot that we would just never play. Like even like the blue go gun attacks, like sometimes you want to play them because you're on a Mordred-type turn or something. But there would always be like one card, like it was either like Machinations, or you would play
Condemned to Slaughter.
Yeah, Condemned to Slaughter. There would just be like some blue that you would never actually want to play over the course of the game. So if you never want to play like this card, like why not? And one of the issues that a lot of Viserais were kind of dealing with before going to the World Championship was how do you deal with Dash.io? So I mean, like everyone talks about how Dash.io just like loses sometimes when they're like they do a setup turn and then they get warmongered. So I'm like, well, why don't we just play the warmongers?
Yeah. It was really funny when I was doing my interview with Rob. He was talking about like, Warmongers is great. My dad beats Viserai. I was like really looking forward to facing the Viserai on top. And then I told him that you played Warmongers. His face was just like, what?
Yeah.
He took so much psychic damage from the fact that you played Warmongers.
Yeah, it's ironic that like I think Auroras before the tournament were like, oh, Viserai is free, and then our opinion was like, oh, Aurora is free. It's just like,
it's just like it's one of those things where like you really want to be trying to like I mentioned at the beginning, like you really want to when you're preparing for tournaments and when you're trying to build your decks, you want to be cognizant of all of the meta decks, like what they're trying to do, like the best things that they're doing into you. And so like if everybody's trying to like play Warmongers into Viserai, then you want to make your deck so that it's not as good, and like us doing that allows us to play Warmongers ourselves.
Yeah. So then we can just talk about some of the cards that we do play that are effective when you're under Warmongers. So the first one is Become the Arcanite.
Yeah.
So there's a cool package into Dio where you have access to Become the Arcanite, Sonata Galaxia, as well as Runeblood Barrier. So by playing this package, when you're trying to fatigue Dio, so here I'll just show these cards. So it's the 1 Runeblood Barrier, the 3 Galaxias, as well as the 3 Become the Arcanite. So the idea is into Dio, when you're playing this package, you essentially have 7 ways because Become can search for the Galaxia can search for the Barrier. You can also just hard play the Barrier. You have 7 ways to become Enigma for a round, where you essentially just like
become the illusion.
Yeah, you put some life gain ward, however you want to view it on the table.
Play this deck after?
Yeah. But yeah, so you essentially just like put some pseudo ward on the table, and it can function kind of like a Warmonger. So if you have 8 rune chants on the board and you have a Runeblood Barrier, what are they going to do? Attack? You're just like, okay, it's like prevent 8 damage, right?
Yeah, everybody always like. I think at first. People get tripped up on like, oh, like how does that card work? And I'm just like, my rune chants are spectral shields, and then they get it. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like the nice thing about I think it's like dual purpose. One, it kind of like insulates you from people who are trying to attack you, but also like if you're not only like getting a Runeblood Barrier, but like being able to become for a Sonata Galaxia. One thing that's like really important is your future deck composition. So depending on like what you want to do, like what kind of cards that you want to draw into. So like if you want to draw into like an attacking hand, for example, you don't really want to have like these non-attacks in your future draws. But let's say if you're still in like a setup mode, then maybe you do want to draw into the non-attacks. So for example, if you play Become the Arcanite and you get Galaxia and the Galaxia gets the Blessing of Occult, you're pulling, like 2 more non-attacks out of your deck. But the downside of that is that the Galaxia could also function as a turn starter. Then maybe you want to instead become the Arcanite for Read the Runes, where the Read the Runes is like a better like singular play later on, or you like block down, play Read the Runes, it's like a better draw. But if you are still, like in setup mode, like maybe you want the Galaxia in your deck. So that's something to consider when you're...
So essentially just like by playing the Galaxia as well as the Galaxia targets, you have more utility from Become than I think a normal Viserai deck does.
Yeah, you can just like play it in multiple ways. Also, like the other nice thing is that like Galaxia is a turn extender when you're under Warmongers. So let's say like you name Peace. I've actually had like a couple situations where I'm like pitching into playing Blessing of Occult, which normally isn't like something that you really want to do, but like when you're under Warmongers, it's like not too bad to like play Blessing of Occult. But if you have a Galaxia, then you can tutor for like another Runechant generator, play Read the Runes, play Blessing of Occult, play Become the Arcanine, looking for like a Read the Runes or whatever. It just lets you like play your whole hand out. In a way that actually advances your board state. But like if you were playing, we were testing like a more aggro version before with a card like I think it's called like Prismatic Leyline, or we were testing like Nimblism or things like that, like cards that like more directly like buffed attack value, and like if you play for like that kind of style, you're really playing into the Warmongers.
Yeah. And one more thing as well about just like Galaxia as a card. So if you saw in the other video, we don't play Sonata Arcanix. We play the superior Sonata. They both kind of let you cheat the game, right?
Yeah.
Sonata Arcanix lets you cheat in the sense it's like a Gorg Tome where it gets you your turn starter, it deals a damage, and it still gets you an attack. And Galaxia can function similarly where you're playing this card often with already Runechants on the board, so you're getting that discounted value. So it's also like a way of essentially cheating the curve, and playing a Runeblood barrier off of one card is not like something that should be legal.
Yeah, exactly. Like you get to play like like a one cost or and not having to spend the resource on it. So instead of instead of getting the 1 point of damage, you get to avoid spending a resource on a card that you otherwise would have.
Yeah, and you can see that in my my top 8 game where I'm able to Galaxia for the cussing. Whereas if I had to like hard play cussing from my hand costing 1, that's like literally a whole nother card. So I'm like sacking 3 points of value by like having to keep another card, whereas Galaxia just like tutors it from the deck.
The one play that I also really liked with the barrier that you did to me once, and I was like, oh, this is sick. You played it, and I was like, oh, you're just getting it for the word value or whatever, and then you just dirged it, and I was like, oh.
So then the dirge is actually worth 4. It's like super sick.
Yeah.
Oh, I see the vision.
Yeah, and exactly. And Galaxia opens you up to more like high roll-esque plays where you can Galaxia for a cussing when you draw dirge, and then you can dirge your cussing. And for people who play limited, I mean, it's even better now because you're making more enchants from Viserai.
Yeah, I also wanted to talk, last thing about the Galaxia is one of the nice things is that I think Mordred Tide is actually pretty effective. So, like, we're not playing, like a extender like Yellow Rune Rager Swarm, but Galaxia kind of functions in a similar way, and it's actually like a little bit more impactful under Mordred Tide because you can kind of double dip the Runechant generation, because when you play the Galaxia, if you're tutoring for like either Arcane Cussing or Runeblood Barrier, because those have create Runechant effects on the same turn that you're playing it, you get to like double dip the Mordred Tide that you wouldn't have been able to do if you were just playing like like a Rune Rager Swarm.
Yeah, exactly. And being able to cast a 9th blade more frequently is just like a recipe for success. So
And that really helps into all those fatigue decks.
yeah, exactly. Helps in the fatigue decks, but it also just like helps in the aggro. Like if you put their life total down super low, most of these decks just kind of like crumble in the end game when faced with the split damage.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it for the Galaxia thing. Then we played, I think Deadwood Dirge and Read the Runes are just kind of like staple. The way the deck works now is like you really want to play your 3-cost attacks that get discounted, and these are just the most efficient ways to set them up.
Yeah, I have a story to tell about kind of like our testing. So
I was in Discord for this.
Yeah.
oh, are you talking about like into Zen?
No, go.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. You have to remind me. So I think like the common knowledge for most people who are playing Viserai is that like in order, like if you want to like go, you really don't want to play like a non-tech action that uses your action point, because you have better things that you can spend on. Most people just like want to swing sword. I actually like really dislike swinging sword in general, because when you swing sword, you kind of blow your Runechant stack at the end, and having the Runechant stack at the beginning of your turn, makes cards like Rune Flash,
Runic Reckoning,
Amplify the Arcanite. All these cards get a lot worse if you're like always blowing your Runechant stack off at the end of the round. So I actually view like playing Read the Runes as being, even though it's just one card, you only get 3 points of arcane damage from it. It's like the LeBron meme, like 3 points is not 3 points. Like because your rune chants also contribute towards discounting a future card. If your Ninth Blade plays as a 1 card 9, then the 9 rune chants also contribute towards the value of the Ninth Blade that you're playing. And then like the other thing about that is when you're talking about like implied value, like a lot of decks, even though like most decks are tuned somewhat to be able to like play their hands out, like you still get situations where like it's still better for a deck to like block like one or 2 cards.
Mm-hmm. Which was one of the reasons that you were talking about you like playing this deck. You're like, I want to block with 1, maybe 2 cards every now and then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other people want to do the same thing.
Yeah, and so like when the other person wants to block like 1 or 2 cards, and then you're like, well, I'm not attacking, then you're like, wait, what the heck am I doing? I played against you, and you play like Truce or something into me, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna, thanks for giving me life. I'm just gonna make rune chants.
Yep.
And it's just like one of those things where I think people get like maybe a little bit too stuck in the level 1, like want to like max my damage every turn kind of thinking. One of the nice things about Viserai is when you build enough damage and then you're dealing essentially like true damage to your opponent, like sure, like maybe I dealt a little bit less damage on this turn, but you're taking this damage on a future turn, and then so you can't stop yourself from hitting that critical threshold where
it's actualized damage, not like just retreating cards.
Yeah. So like you're actually taking this damage. So sure, like I take some damage, and this is where the block cards also come in because they help you like buffer, like not take as much damage to set up, but because you're actually taking the damage, then you're going to hit the threshold where you're going to have to start blocking. And then if you're at 1 and I do like 1 rune chant plus like 2 damage on the attack, then you're taking 2 cards, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's when you really shine.
And I think another thing too is that at least before this set, a lot of the discounting attacks, especially the Ninth Blade, you were kind of making rune chants not on rate. But now that we have a lot of the tools from Rosetta, when you make rune chants on rate, then sending a 1 card 9 is insane. If you like spent 4 cards making the 9 rune chants, then send a 1 card 9, it's like not as impressive. Yeah. But if you made those 9 rune chants off of like 2 or 3 cards, then it's like much more like backbreaking for the opponent, I think.
But I was going to say about the Discord thing was I remember being there in Discord one day, and Noah was trying to figure out some stuff with the deck, and you were every time your answer was just play read the runes.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm having a problem with this matchup. Just play read the runes, and you're just like, brother, how many read the runes do you want to put in the deck? The answer can't just always be read the runes.
Well, that's why we started playing Blessing of McCullough.
Yeah, Blessing of McCullough is just more read the runes. Yep.
That was a secret.
Yeah. And one last thing too as well is since this deck wants to operate pitchless, like my ideal game is I literally just like never pitch a card the whole game. Mm-hmm. Swinging the sword often means I'm just using a card.
Yeah.
So if I follow up my turn with a read the rune, spending my action point, I'm also using a card.
Yeah.
But it's actually just 1 point better because I'm making 4 since my Viserai power is turned on.
Yeah.
Or it's the same and I'm making 3, but it's 3 that are contributing to a future turn, as opposed to 3 that's just like super easy for my opponent to decide if they want to block or not now.
Yeah.
So I think if you're playing a deck that has a cost curve that involves pitching cards for your rounds, then maybe the read the runes every turn is not as good.
Yeah.
But with this deck, I think it just makes a lot of sense. You just never pitch, so just play more cards that cost 0 and
yeah, I think a lot of these things are just holdovers from when people were playing like Rosetta Thorn, Marvin Skies, Viserai.
Yeah.
And so like everybody just like, yeah, obviously when you have Rosetta Thorn, you want to be swinging your weapon every turn, but the rules are different.
Yeah, exactly. I think, Mordred needs no explanation. Very good card. Our deck, I think, utilizes it better from what you were saying before, where we're playing cards that make rune chants themselves, not just benefiting off the Viserai hero power.
Yeah.
Super strong card. And then the Malefics. So these are probably like the coolest new tool that Viserai got.
Yeah.
There's some like interesting playlines with Malefic where you don't necessarily always want to play this as your turn starter. Sometimes you want to play it like mid-turn, so you end on a higher rune chant stack.
Yeah.
For example, you start your turn, like say you have 1 rune chant, you could start turn with like Runic Reckoning, play your go again attack, then play Malefic.
I think I did that to you in our limited game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously nice if you just have Malefic and limited, but yeah. Something that lets you end with a larger rune chain stack. So yeah, that line of play I was saying, then you go like Malefic, then you play the second attack, so then you end your turn with the 2 rune chants instead of 1. Maybe you then have Tunic coming up, so you can play a 3-coster for free.
I have like a love-hate relationship with Malefic. It's like both a really strong card for the deck, but then also it can be super awkward to kind of get like full value out of, because you do want to be like attacking, and then in some matchups like where you only want to be like attacking like once or twice because like the game is too short, then it can get a little bit awkward. I think that was like one of the reasons why we want, like, you know, like a lot of people are playing 3 yellow Malefics. I think we're only playing 2 and not always. It does get a little bit awkward sometimes to have like the Malefics on the board. Also, like when you're playing to Zen and then you're like giving them the option to block their hat and then activate their chest, then the rune chants that you're generating off the Malefic like don't actually do anything.
Yeah.
If you're attacking again. So
I think that wasn't as relevant this tournament. There wasn't as much Zen as we maybe anticipated. Internally, I think we expected Zen to be much more popular than it was at the tournament. So that was a real consideration for this.
Yeah.
Maybe moving forward, you could just go up to 3 yellow Malefics if Zen isn't as popular. But it did win the calling, so respecting it by not giving them additional value off of attacking multiple times in the turn. Typically, you want to just front load all the rune chants on the first attack to kind of dodge the hat chest play.
Yeah.
And Malefic doesn't let you do that.
Yeah.
But if Zen is not as popular, this is still like one of the most powerful consistency pieces that Viserai has. Another thing it lets you do, obviously, is play hands under War from Warmongers if you just have like Rune Ragers or Swarming, stuff like that. And also, just for reference to, this counts as an aura for Swarming. It's like you play this is one of the auras, and you swing with Swarming, so you're immediately doing 4, which is a really strong line of play.
Yeah, well, you're doing 4.
You're 4 plus the bonus effect.
The bonus effect.
Yeah. Bonus text OP. So yeah, Blessing of a Cult. I think this is the first divergence between our lists. You played 3 blessings.
Yeah.
Yuanji just hates Snuff Out, so he played 3 blessing and 3 Ninth Blade instead.
Yeah.
And I think we can get into Snuff Out later, but I think 2 blessing was correct for the metagame that I faced. So I wouldn't change it. Yeah. Maybe moving forward it's changed, but I think
it was really good for me when I played into like CYB, the Ashai.
Yeah, exactly. Just like your tournament experience may vary of whether you want the third blessing versus the Snuff Out. It's not the third blessing is great because you're like, okay, I need to like play all 3 blessings, but like maybe you draw 1 and need to block with it, or like you hard cast 1 and you want to still have options to tutor later for
most of the time I found when I was playing like hard setup, when I'm only playing 2 Blessing of Occult, it's actually like really difficult to have like enough targets for Galaxia later on. Because like I don't really want to be like tutoring out Malefic incantations, because if I'm just trying to like hit you once, like
they don't actually make the rune chants.
I want to like front load the rune chants. Obviously, like having the Malefics on the board is better than not having the Malefics, because like you can still like Mordred Tide and get a lot of value from it.
And you get some intimidation, you know, you just like have this giant board state with like all these Malefics, they're just like dooming, waiting for you to draw the Mordred and just like flood the board with infinite rune chants.
So,
and then I'm just him and draw Ripple.
Ripple away is not real. It can't hurt you.
Well, I had my match against what's it called? Who's the guy one of the other Enigma who made top 8?
Valentine?
Oh yeah. So I actually beat Valentine in Swiss, and he had Ripple away like a couple times when I had like 3 Malefics on the field, and I was like a little bit nervous because actually on one of the turns I don't think he realized it, but I had like 2 Blessing of the Cults in play that were gonna pop, and then I also had the 3 Malefics, and he just like chose not to. He like pitched his Ripple away to like A B, so his like Ripple
exposed.
So his Ripple. He made top 8, and I didn't say that.
Not salty at all, but continue.
No, not salty. He's actually like. I told him before the match that like I thought he was like a magic goat when I was playing against him, but you know, it's just like one of these like random kind of like interactions. You wouldn't like really think like nobody fucking plays this card.
Blessing of a Cult. This is literally. I asked. Actually, wait. One anecdote.
How many Malefics did you have?
I had 3 Malefics and I had 2.
You just always Ripple.
I had 2. Well, I think because he wasn't like I asked him.
It just doesn't matter. You just Ripple because I don't know if the discount on the back matters for you for future things.
Sure. I think he said that he thought that it was just like the same because it's like 3 or 3.
It's just not true because the discounts.
Yeah. No,
He was
we know.
missing the critical information.
Yeah,
It's
but
okay.
also it would have been for 5.
Yeah, it would have been for 5 because these are started.
Math aside.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, these
yeah.
are start of action phase, right? Or start of turn?
No, start a turn.
Oh, so he can't even do it.
Oh, you can't do it. Okay.
Okay, so math
So
aside.
he's the
Still
goat.
3 for 3.
Yeah,
So not exposed,
Yeah, not
but
exposed.
also still exposed because the
The discount matters for sure.
yeah, like we
Okay.
talked about this at length in the other thing where
Yeah, because this is the same timing as Tunic. I remember.
Okay,
Sometimes
yeah.
I do Blessing
I
Spoons.
thought it
or
was start of action.
like imagine if you like didn't ripple and you got like 9th to there. That was like how I've won so many of these games on the Enigma side where I'd like ripple on like a key round and then you just be like, fuck, I really needed those rune chances to
Yeah.
get this 9th and now I just like I'm stuck with this in my hand.
Yeah.
But okay, wait. I need to tell my anecdote now. Of like, I asked for this in our local group chat, the Blessing of Occult, because like I didn't own this card. Who would own this card? And everyone's like memeing, like, wait, are you like trolling? Like, there's no way you're actually submitting a deck with this card for the World Championship. Like, is this like a proxy? Like, there's no way you're actually playing Blessing of Occult. But yeah,
I
card.
I couldn't convince Noah to play the third one.
yeah. I wouldn't change it. And then the one cussing. You could play more if you want to like sack your opponents. We had a build originally that was running like 6 copies of Condemn with cussing to try to just like juice popping your cussing, popping their like CLV or some other impactful aura.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like not really a CC viable strategy.
Yeah, cussing is mostly just there because it's a 1-cost aura. It's like the only 1-cost aura that pops for the rune chance on the turn that you pull it out. So when you're on a Mordred side turn, it's just better. Or like if you want to front load the damage, it's just better.
Yeah, and also lets you play like 2 discounted attacks in the same turn.
Yeah.
And one other thing too is a lot of decks are running Redline, as I mentioned earlier, with like Aurora. They're never going to be able to like fight over a cussing. So you can just Tunic play, since I'm playing Tunic in that matchup, you can just use this as your Tunic outlet. Play this, attack for like 2 rune chance, 4 physical. They're not going to stop that.
Yeah,
So your cussing is just going to pop.
They try to ferment and then they switch all you and you're like, oh yeah, take one.
Oh, that's funny. That never came up. If they sigil you on your turn, you pop the cussing. That's kind of cute. Yeah, and then, okay, so maybe this is like sacrilege to people who don't play this deck, that they think, oh, Succumb is like the best card in the game. Like, how do you not play 3 of this card? This card is just like super awkward. I think if you're playing a build that tries to maximize the value of this card by playing like the yellow Rune Ragers, like as many go again attacks as possible, then you're playing into the Warmonger super hard.
Yeah, so I actually don't
And-
think... Yeah, I don't think any of the people who are playing Viserai are actually playing lists that are maxing Succumb. Like, really, like, the cards that you want to play to max Succumb are going to be, like, high-power attacks that don't have go again. So, like, you build, like, a Rune Chance deck, they're going to take arcane damage. You hit them with, like, a big attack. Like, Amp is a good one, but, like, they're not playing that many, like, big attacks. So, like, ideally, it would be something like you play an Amp, then you have the threat of Succumb. So you play Succumb, you get an action point, and then you play like another big attack like Arcanic Spike or like a Shrill Skull Form or something like that. But yeah, nobody's really doing that kind of stuff right now. So I think Succumb is just like a bit of an awkward card. It's still pretty important because there's a lot of matchups like into Levia, into like Azalea, into the Mirror sometimes, where hitting like a key card in their hand can make a big difference on like the total value of their hand. So like for example, if you hit someone in the Mirror and you hit their only non-attack action, then they lose like 3-4 points in addition to the value of whatever the non-attack action does.
Yep.
Or into Levia sometimes, like you hit their they're only blue, or you hit their like card that banishes from the graveyard.
Now they take a bunch of
Yeah,
blood
now
debt.
they take a bunch of blood debt. So the card is still useful, but I think it's like the threat of the card is more useful than the actual like playing the card out.
Yeah, and I think you also do want to play it differently based on the matchup. Like when I was playing against Bartosz, I had a play where I got to do the cool Viserai on the stack, even though I haven't technically played a non-attack yet. He takes Arcane, then I'm able to flash in the Succumb. So now the Viserai sees that I've played a non-attack, he makes the Rune Chant, and I'm able to play 2 discounters on the turn and force him to block both of them to respect the Succumb. And into something like Aurora, they can't like block efficiently and send back a turn.
Yeah.
So it's just like a tempo swing card that is also something that lets you have follow-up for the next turn because you're playing a non-attack, like you're making Rune Chance, you're playing your turn like normal. So it's a power card in a different way than Revel, which is just like it's just doing 5 damage. This is a power card in a sense of it's forcing them to make a bad play while also still advancing your own game state and leaving you follow up for your next turn.
The other awkward thing too, like to your point earlier when it was awkward, if you take damage to keep it, like you don't know what they're going to do in their round. Like they might decide to block one half or the other. Like if they block all the arcane, now you can't play this.
Yeah.
And just like leads to these situations where you're like, I can't predict how the next turn's going to play out based on what my opponent's going to do.
Yeah, actually, the most gas play that you can make with Succumb is like you build a rune chance deck and you lead with like a ninth blade. So you like play the ninth blade first, and then you use Succumb to give you the action point. Once you're like rune chant, because like if you build like you build above 12 rune chants, like they can't prevent all of the arcane damage. So it's like a nice way to get. It's like it's the actually good like machinations where it lets you cheat out the action point for the ninth blade, but also now they have to block the physical on the ninth blade because they're gonna have to discard a card. So they're gonna like put 9 in front of it, and then you can do like whatever else.
Yeah, and one more thing too is since we're not playing creepers and runeblade mirrors, sometimes your action point can be a bit taxed if they happen to block you out on a round. So having between the succumbs and the rattlebones as like pseudo creepers is also like pretty relevant.
Yeah.
To be able to just like play your hand for value. So then speaking of rattlebones, is also 2 of that. I think it's like one of the worst cards. It's like I always think about when I'm building a deck of like if LSS would like print more cards for different functions. This is like the first one on the chopping block. This card like actually sucks besides the fact it's a non-attack that blocks 3. But there just like aren't better cards that have been printed yet. You need some non-attacks with Go Again that let you like start your round.
Yeah, and it's like one of the only ways that you can like outlet your blues in an efficient way. The other Viserai decks can also play like Sonata Arcanix and pay like 2 into it and try to hit 2 attacks. But I think that there just aren't that many good ways to kind of spend your blues right now. So this is just one of them in the matchups that you do want to play some blues.
Yeah. And also, very importantly, why I liked Snuff Out was that if DL leaves you with cards, you can efficiently pitch a blue to Rattlebones for Snuff Out and force them to respect your play.
Respect is a strong word. They just have to give you 1 card.
Yeah, but
or 0.
I want their cards.
Sure.
The way
They
I win
always
is
have to give you 1 card.
Yeah, the way I win is they have no cards.
They always have to give you 1 card, right?
I'll give you armor.
Yeah.
They have a lot of armor.
That's fair.
Yeah, especially because most of them are playing the gloves that can block 3.
Yeah.
But the idea is you throw the Snuff Out the first time, and then the second one off the Rattlebones actually like maybe does something because they gave you armor. It's cope, but whatever. So then Runic Reckoning. This is another card. It's just like these non-attacks that are really bad into Warmongers. It's just like so sad you have to play them, but they just like haven't printed better cards to replace them yet.
Yeah, like there's not like really like ideally you would want a 3-block non-attack that you can play for 0 resources that does anything.
But just doesn't use your action point.
Yeah. That has Go Again that does anything, but they just don't really exist right now.
I don't even think like 2-block ones really exist. Like we're playing like the Dirge and Read the Runes. It's like another card in that category would be what we need, but there's just like not more cards like that exist. So
Yellow.
Yeah, exactly. You start going banana, and then it's just it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, so it's necessary evil.
Yeah, and then Revel, one of the cards that I think if you don't play Runeblade, you think this card's like the absolute nuts. You're just like every turn spooked. Oh, what if they Revel?
Yeah.
But like people who actually play Runeblade know that this card is so bricky. It's one of the only cards that like you lose agency in that you have to keep a full hand to play it, and you have to have very specific cards, as well as in our build, since we're trying to operate pitchless.
Yeah.
It's very awkward to play this on a 3-card hand. You basically need Tunic Up in order to make it work.
Yeah.
So yeah, forcing yourself to keep a 4-card hand when, and also having a 2-block as a failure rate, it's just like a dubious card. But you do need the power spike in order to beat the fatigue decks, as well as if you are going second, you need some way of like being able to efficiently play out your full hand to have the tempo. So this is like I think one of the better cards to have in like an opening hand going second.
Yeah, it's also like one of the only ways that you can cast Ninth Blade in an aggro matchup. Like any matchup that's gonna last 5 turns or less. It's like because you can't like realistically plan to Rune Chant stack against other aggro decks for like up to 9. The Revel makes 5 on play on a Mordred Tide. It makes 7. So on a Mordred Tide, if you play like any other like attack that has go again, you're already hit 9 right there. So that's kind of like why it's in the deck. But actually, like you just like there's so many times that you just like don't sub that card.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about sideboard stuff in a different video. I don't think we need to get in super depth of like what we sideboard in and out in every matchup, but this is not like a core card that is a staple 3 of in every matchup.
Is there perhaps another place that people might be able to find that?
Yeah, so we'll probably post the sideboard notes if you want to support Runaways, if you enjoy playing in unsanctioned events. If it's just like a nice place to gather and
Nice. People running away from the law outside.
it's a nice place to gather with some people who from around the world to play games.
They were running away out there.
Yeah.
We support like the cost of running the Discord, so like the server cost or whatever, with the Discord membership. So in addition, we'll probably post the sideboard guide. We also get like some gameplay videos every month. I think we're currently working on like retooling the perks, so we'll have another like announcement on that.
Mm-hmm.
But there'll be some more Viserai content on the Runaways Patreon,
Yeah, exactly,
not Patreon, Premium Discord.
Yeah.
And I'll have a link for that in the description. Send that to me later.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so I think we finished talking about the non-attacks. So now we can get into some of the... I guess we could just talk about the conventional attacks first. So I think Amp as just like a 6-0.
Oh, just run by the snuff outs?
No, I'm going to talk about that after. Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is going to be long. So like I just want to get the simple stuff over with first.
Yeah, Amp is probably the best blue attack.
Yeah, it's like by far. So I have like a running theory that like if they printed Amp as a card with 3, 4, and 5 as like the blue, yellow, red instead of 4, 5, 6, I think you would like play the one that had 5 power. Like I think that power level of just like a 0 for 5, 0 for 6 if Viserai's online is like good enough to play. So yeah, playing the blue and the red since we live in this timeline where they're even better is just like crazy.
Yeah.
You can't really get away with 9 of the card unless you're playing stuff that gives your attacks go again, but it's one of the most powerful cards in the deck. I think it's like, given that we play Read the Runes in every matchup, it's just the most consistent, like, okay, I can block my hand and play this card, or I can play it on a large hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, good card. And then Rune Flash is similar, but...
I've actually wanted to shave like blue Rune Flash.
Yeah.
One issue that I kind of got into is I felt like I was drawing into like too many attacks sometimes, but like the Rune Flashes would kind of clutter it up. So it's like it's really nice when you have like a bunch of Malefics out, but like if you don't have a bunch of Malefics out, like having blue Rune Flash is just like you're kind of like bricking yourself. So I don't know if there's a good answer to this.
It's just another situation of like they haven't printed, like Fab is still relatively new. They just haven't printed a deep enough card pool to give us like replacements for these. I think you kind of have to play it.
Yeah, I don't know how low you can go on the attacks count, but it's just something to think about.
Yeah. For reference, there's 25 in the whole deck, and I would typically be subbing either 23 actually I would go from anywhere from 21 to 25. Sometimes I would take out 2 blues.
Yeah.
So it's already like relatively low amount of attacks in the deck in general. So yeah, you kind of just like have to play those. And then the same thing with the Rune Rager, where the red is like pretty solid, and then the blue is just kind of like whatever. It's just role filler.
Yeah.
At least the reds come in the pretty version from the ProQuest stuff. And then Gloomvale, I mean, it's just like.
Yeah, Gloomvale I think is just like the one card. As long as Viserai is legal, I don't think Gloomvale will ever leave the deck.
Yeah, it's just like it's such a dumb card.
Yeah, it's like
so the Gloomvale feels like what you were talking about earlier with the God, what was it? the amplifies, or if they just printed like slightly worse, you would have played it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The Rune Rager Swarms is just like
It's literally perfect example. Yeah, it's just slightly worse, and it's just like still definitely good enough. Yeah. The can't be prevented text also just does matter sometimes too.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the last thing says I only played 2 9th blade. Yuanji played 3.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely a card you could play 3 of because a lot of games I intend on casting 1 to 2.
Yeah.
So having the 3rd means you can freely block with it and not be scared that I just blocked with my power card. I'm not going to see another one.
Yeah. All of my craziest games, I think that I've played with this deck. I've had games where I'd kill my opponent in 3.5, 4 turns. And all of those games involve playing 9th blade more twice.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you can get to it, 9th blade is just kind of the ultimate punish for the opponent for letting you go first and just building a bunch of rune chants. It's just it's just such an insane card, and it's one of the major catch-up mechanics that you have access to in the deck. So you're kind of behind, you get to play off a couple of rebels when you're on defense, and then you're blocking down, you play read the runes. It's just how you actually catch up.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point too, that this deck is really strong in a sense that no matter what the result of the die roll is, it's good. Mm-hmm. Going second, you can reasonably play out your hand for value arsenal, a good card.
Yeah.
And going first, I mean, it's almost 90% chance you're going to see some sort of setup card going first. Between all the Galaxias, the Blessings, the Read the Runes, the Dirge, right? You're going to see some amount of setup card, and all those cards don't let your opponent filter. So you're setting up, dealing a lot of damage turn 0, and that you're discounting your future attacks as well as putting actual rune chance on the board, and also not letting your opponent filter. There can be games you just FTK your opponent. Okay, I made 8 rune chance turn 0, and your hand sucks. You spent 3 cards to attack for 5. I just won the game immediately. So I think that's another huge advantage where you win the die roll and it's really good for you.
Yeah.
And you lose the die roll. Maybe their deck isn't optimized to go first, but they feel pressured into going first because they want to deny you the ability to set up. Yeah. So you're kind of just always winning there. I lost, I think I won 4 die rolls and lost 11 on the weekend. Mm-hmm. And every time I go first, it was just so insane. And when I went second, I was okay, I still feel in this because unless it's a DO opponent where they're also setting up, I feel totally fine going second as well.
I remember the common logic before was to try to go first versus Viserai. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I remember distinctly switching at some point in the past couple years of Fab of being nah, fuck it, I'm just going to let them go first. I don't care. Have the open 3 rune chance card because there's so few ways to actually in the old shrill mob
exactly version. There was almost no punishes. It was just read the runes,
and it's if they even played it, there's just not enough ways. Okay, make 1 to 2 rune chance, whatever, I don't care. You making 2 rune chance on average is worth me going second and having the proactive turn. But now it's infinite ways to punish going first.
Yeah, I think it's not too unreasonable to make anywhere between 4 to 6. I made 12 once with no arsenal, and then Dan sacked me and drew double transcend on this. On my second turn.
Yeah, there's actually just 21 cards that make rune chain value turn 0. You're going to see one. So yeah, he agrees. Okay. So then the last attack is the snuff out. We should snuff out that guy. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, the last attack is snuff out. So this is just so controversial. I think in order for Yuanji and I to not start throwing fisticuffs, we gotta keep the conversation. Maybe we'll leave the arguing section for the Patreon. So my favorite part about this card is that by it existing in my deck, my opponent has to respect the fact that it's a card.
Yeah, but if it doesn't exist in my deck, they still might think that it exists in
exactly,
your deck.
Yeah. But not when you get to Top Cut. So you should try that.
Yeah, but how good was it?
Wait, how did that work out for you?
Yeah, how did that work out?
I wish I drew it.
Did he respect it?
I don't think it would have been good if you drew it. It would never have been useful.
On turn 2, it could have been fine.
Did you win the game because your opponent respected it?
Well, the game was so short, it just didn't matter.
I don't know. So there's pros and cons. I think snuff out in general. I think disruptive attacks right now are just kind of weak because of how many 3 blocks people play. like decks don't have to have like all 3 blocks for disruption to be bad, but decks just have to have like enough 3 blocks so that they can give
enough 3 blocks and modality to their hands where they can block with some cards. And
which then
fine.
again, third time goes into the point that we made earlier of a lot of decks want to block with like 1 card in their hand a lot of the times. Like the math is just better getting rid of a card.
Yeah, and then the other aspect of like Snuff Out is that Snuff Out demands usually just like 1 card plus like 2 block armor, and like everybody's just playing 2 block armor right now.
Yeah. So yeah, the matchups I'm trying to target with this card specifically would be Azalea as well as New. Yeah. Where New typically has just the arms and the shoes, and they block with them relatively early because they want to have them online when they draw a hand that needs to pop them for offensive value. So I find that, and Azalea is, light armor class, so they don't really have armor to block this. So I find this card is like especially useful into those matchups.
Yeah, but I don't play Tunic into Azalea, so it's like that card is just unplayable. I like the Snuff Out is really unplayable if you're trying to build a deck that doesn't want to pitch.
Yeah.
Because
it's just a card you play off of Tunic.
It's really good when you make your opponent discard, but then you also discard a card by throwing it into the pitch zone.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, it's a bit of a Stars Align card, but I like playing powerful cards. It's definitely a powerful effect if it resolves or it makes their hand worse.
Oh, okay.
So we will disagree to disagree. Okay. So then, we get to the fun part of the deck.
Yeah.
The cards that say 4 in the... You can see so many of them that say 4 in the bottom right corner.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of this strategy.
Yeah.
My favorite one is Reduce. So I don't know why they call it Reduce because it's increase. But you're not paying
No,
more.
you're reducing their attack into a rune chant.
That's too next level for me, honestly.
Oh, Orthos Mike over here.
Yeah.
But their attack still has the same number.
No, but it didn't do any damage. You're like taking their attack and turning it into a rune chant.
Transmogrification, okay.
Yeah.
So this card I think is like...
Check out Runaway's Discord, premium Discord for more lore like this.
Yeah, exactly. So Reduce is basically a huge edge in like aggro mirrors, I've found. In like aggro mirror meaning like Viserai mirror versus Aurora, those kind of decks. As well as Dio, obviously, but that's not really a mirror. The ability to have a 1-card 5 like swarming Gloomveil on defense basically, as well as it contributing to discounting your attacks on the follow-up is I think like just crazy strong. Being able to set a card as well too where they can't necessarily do anything about it, like they're going to attack with a 4, you're going to block, even if they have attack with a 3 you're still extracting 4 value out of it. So just like nuts card, and by not playing Snot Arcanics we get to play good cards.
Big if true.
Yeah. Sink Below, it's just like you could play a card that had no text box here and still blocked 4 and was a defense reaction, but this one just also has a busted text box, so why not play it?
Yeah.
Here's the Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile right there. This card's just busted, play it. 3 of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just 4 value. Like, it's Ravenous Rabble, but you don't have to reveal the top. You just like get 4. It's OP.
But then sometimes you get the top.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just like get bonus fixing. I don't know. It's like such a silly card.
Yeah. This card...
Haunting Rendition. So we didn't play Fate. We just play Haunting Rendition instead. The reasoning is that against Wizard, which is not a real deck, but some people enter tournaments with it for some reason, you can discard this for still extracting 3 value out of your card, similar to having a blue, but it being more offensively minded, and usually into Wizard, you like want to end the game fast.
There's different pros and cons. Also, it's... I think if you're playing like an Aurora and Top Cut and then they look at your deck, they're probably going to play like Exude Confidence into you if they have it in their list. So like having a card that just has block on it, let's say they attack with Exude, you block with some card from your hand, and then they come in with like a Snatch. It's nice to have just like a block card for 4 instead of having like a defense reaction. It comes up sometimes.
Yeah.
If they attack you with like Command and Conquer, you can block with Haunting Rendition plus Grasp.
Yeah. Another thing too that's really important too is this prevention floats.
Yeah.
So if they start with like a 1 arcane, you can discard this. Then they come in with an attack for 4. You have essentially 1 card that's like covered up both. So you can spend 2 cards preventing their 2 cards worth, even though it was like theoretically awkward breakpoints.
Yeah.
And then also the fact it makes a rune chant is really important. If you say, for example, like use Tunic to swing sword, you played a Revel, you've cleared your rune chant stack for whatever reason on the past turn. This can help like restart your rune chant stack on their turn. So if you like have the tempo per se, and the opponent just their hand more profitably swings 1 attack back at you, sometimes I'll just like, even they attack me for 4, but they only have like 1 card, and I feel like I'm ahead. I just need to like, actually end the game. I'll just discard this, take 2, but make. Someone calling me out.
Yeah, I'm getting called.
Political call.
Yeah, I'm getting called.
Yeah, we're filming this on. Is it like election time now? Is it cross midnight?
So.
Okay. But yeah, anyway, so using this card to maybe just. You good, bro? Okay. So yes, anyways.
And that also turns on the reduce.
Yeah, it turns on the reduce,
if you don't
if
have
you're
those.
nice and you have. I think against Bartosz, there was a turn where like he attacked for 4, I blocked for 4, then he attacked with Snatch and went Lightning Press. I was like, react, cover it up. Just like block 12. And it was, I think it was 2 reduces as well. Which was like 14 value on defense out of 3 cards. It's absurd. But yeah, anyways, what I was trying to say about this is just it's a way of restarting your Rune Chant stack, so you can make a play that's like theoretically neg value, but you're still extracting 3 value from your card. So, yeah, I think this is basically all we wanted to say. A lot of the value in this deck is generated off of having Rune Chants, playing discounted attacks, and then just playing above rate defense.
Any other closing thoughts before we go to bed?
I think everyone should try playing this deck. It's a lot of fun.
All right, I'm definitely going to learn for the next season myself. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to go to bed. We got to wake up early in the morning to go to the Bamboo Forest. Peace, YouTube.